welcome to the Bender Bunker. I've got to be upfront with you and warn you that we always have guitar content here. This channel is dedicated to B-Bender and standard guitar lessons. But if you're looking for that, there is no guitar content at all in this one. So pull the ripcord now. But if you're a guitar player that's interested in maybe switching over to bring mandolin into the mix, as I've done recently, this video might be for you. Because I just picked the mandolin for the first time about 6 months ago. Been playing guitar for a good while, we'll say several decades. And I've always wanted to play the mandolin, so finally picked one up about 6-7 months for the first time. Been having a blast with it, and now that I've got some time on the instrument, I thought I'd share my top 10 impressions and thoughts on bringing the mandolin into my playing style. So if that sounds good to you and you're considering the same thing, let's get started. I'll be right back with number one. Okay, number one on the top 10 thoughts and impressions of picking up the mandolin is it's kind of a good news, bad news, we'll call it. The good news is if you've been playing guitar for a while and you're very comfortable with a pick and memorizing and picking up chords pretty quickly on the guitar, those skill sets are going to serve you very well. They're very transferable in my experience over to the mandolin. That's the good news, because as far as I can tell, and I've watched a lot of mandolin players on YouTube, there is not a lot of finger picking or anything going. It's very much about mastering the pick. And so if you're comfortable with the pick as I was from all those years of guitar playing, that was very transferable for me. I really haven't had much problem with that, so that's thankful. The bad news part of it is this, you know, the strings starting from the bottom to the top, and there's 8 strings total on the mandolin, but there's really only 4. They're unison strings. So from the bottom it's G, D, A, E. So not like a guitar, and what that means is all of the chord shapes that you've memorized as a guitar player are now useless. You get to memorize new ones. So for the first time in, God, I don't know how long, I was on the internet pulling up chord charts and memorizing chords for mandolins. So, you know, you got your G and C and D, and you're just starting over. And that's kind of fun. It really makes you look at an instrument in a whole fresh new light because you are learning from scratch. So again, guitar skills in terms of having a comfortable fret hand and forming frets and memorizing chords and all that and the picking hands, all that is I found that to be very transferable over to the mandolin from the guitar. So that's number one. Okay, for number two, and this one's going to be very obvious, but boy, you know, when you look at a mandolin, you can tell that the fret's much smaller than a guitar. And you already know that going in. But having only played guitar in my life, I'm here to tell you, when you first start on the mandolin as a guitar player, these frets are tiny. I mean, I can't tell you how tiny they are. You know, when your hand is used to a guitar's fret size and you try and get your mind and your muscle memory on these smaller mandolin frets, it was incredibly challenging. I mean, to the point where I almost bailed out. I had a return policy on this, and I thought after the first couple of days, I really enjoyed the chords and I was picking things up quickly, but it was just, I couldn't believe you were supposed to play with these small frets. I remember going to Google and like searching mandolin with bigger frets, because I thought maybe, I mean, surely they make one, and they do. It's called like an octave mandolin. It's a whole different instrument. Looks really cool, actually. I'd like to play one of those someday as well. They sound amazing, but they don't sound like this. It's mandolin's a mandolin, so you get what you get on these fret sizes. Now, I will say this, it took a couple of weeks for me to have my mind finally snap over and be able to pick up a mandolin and not freak out about the fret size. And once I would play for a few hours and then go back to my guitar frets, it was almost like an aircraft carrier. Those things were huge, like you could land something on them in my mind. So the fret sizes will be something to contend with the first few weeks. I can't remember exactly when it was. It was a few weeks before my muscle memory in my mind snapped in, and it really wasn't a big deal, and I could go back and forth without thinking about it. So fret size is definitely something you will encounter, and that's our number two. All right, number three for me was what we'll call sustain and resonance. Not very much on the mandolin, to be honest with you, compared to if you've been playing your whole life on acoustic guitars, very resonant, deep, bassy acoustics like I tend to favor. I mean, it rings, but it doesn't ring like you're accustomed to. So your mind, you know, you hit a chord, and as a guitar player, you've got kind of a natural shelf life in your mind of how long that chord's going to ring, depending on how you've hit it or if you're muting or what have you. With the mandolin, the chord goes away pretty quick, which is kind of why they're always moving with the pick hand, you know. You know, it took a while to get used to that. And then a lot of times when I was working on chords or doing some runs, I kind of missed those bottom notes. I kept thinking, okay, I come down, and it just felt like there should be some bottom notes because I was used to having that my whole life on guitar. And that took a while to get used to what we'll call dead air, you know, like you let it ring, but then it goes away awfully quick. So you better be ready to, you know, fill in and do something else. Where with the guitar, it's kind of a very lenient instrument. You can get away with hitting a chord and buying yourself some time with that chord ringing out. Not as much with the mandolin. So it's definitely a different shift in your mindset about how you're approaching chords and how often you're actually playing the instrument versus letting things ring on the guitar. And believe it or not, when you've only played guitar your whole life, that it does take some getting used to. So that was my number 3. Okay, number 4 for me is an interesting one. I found the mandolin to be a much more melodic centric instrument. You're not as lingering chords and you're not hiding behind chords as much as I found that I was as a guitar player. You really had to go more in a single note mentality often is the case, because the chords ringing aren't really going to get you through and drive a song the way maybe you would on a guitar. So you're really thinking, I started thinking more in a single note mentality. I'd kind of gotten away from guitar, and I actually welcomed that. Now maybe that's just because I've only been playing 6 or 7 months and maybe the rest comes later. That's probably the case. But for right now, starting out with the mandolin, it's very single note melody driven, and it's a part of my playing that I'd kind of gotten away from, and it's been a nice influence when I go back to the guitar to think more melodically and pick the right notes to drive the song forward, because you really got to, you know, think of the right notes on the mandolin. You can't go, oh, well, I'll just kind of, it's in the E, so I'll hit that E chord and I can think about what I want to do next. I mean, you really got to pick the notes and kind of think ahead. The sustain, like I mentioned before, isn't going to ring to get you too far into the next passage of the song while you think about it. So also the single note mentality, the single note melody driven style of playing that the mandolin's brought out of me. He really brought out different styles that I hadn't played in a long time. I started writing things similar to this, which is kind of almost more classical in nature. So stuff I wasn't normally doing as a guitar player. Maybe I did when I was starting out, but I hadn't done it in a while. I'm definitely a lead player. You see that in my lessons of the B-bender and the standard guitar. So I am used to a single note mentality, but things like that are more melody driven. They're driving the song with those single notes. It's not really lead playing. That's actually a song with single notes, and I don't really have much of that mentality with my guitar playing. So that was a welcome addition to my style that actually helped me as a guitar player that I picked up as a beginning mandolin player. Okay, number 5 is one I didn't expect, but now that I have the instrument, it's perfectly obvious. The mandolin is a very forgiving, transportable instrument. You know, if you want to go on a trip on airlines, this baby goes in the case in the overhead bin, no problem. It fits in the passenger seat much easier than any type of guitar in a case that you might have. So it's just really fun to take on trips, whether they be, you know, on the airlines or in the car. It just doesn't take up much room, and you always have an instrument with you. It's also very light and easy just to strap on and wander around your house and practice. You know, I'll go talk to my wife and I'll just be practicing. I'm not worried about dinging it. You know, the width of this instrument's not that much, so I'm not dinging it into doorways like maybe I would with a guitar. Also, this is going to sound a little weird, but go with me. It's also a very excellent bathroom instrument. What guitar player here amongst us hasn't taken the guitar to the bathroom with them? You get that extra special reverb you get from the shower stall, and you got something to do. Mandolin's even better. It's light, easy to transport, sets on the floor easily, and you actually get some of that resonance I talked about missing earlier off the shower stall. So, excellent bathroom instrument. A strange but true number 5. Okay, number 6 for me was the mandolin has become an excellent alternative to guitar playing. And what I mean by that is, you know, I play guitar all the time, daily, and most of the time I'm picking up a telly, playing some straight ahead telly through a couple different amps I have. I've got some different effects pedals so you can change it up there, get some variety. And then of course I've got the B-bender Telecaster that I do the lessons with, and that's a different part of my brain. You got to really think about when you throw the B-bender in. It's not just flying around the guitar like you would normally. You got to think about when to use the bender because it doesn't work in every situation, believe me. Also, acoustic guitar, a whole different style there, and you know, my finger picking and my, you know, doing a hybrid picking. So you've got a lot of different aspects of the guitar, as you probably know as a guitar player watching this. But at the end of the day, what do they all have in common? It's still guitar playing. And so there are times where I want to be musical, but I don't necessarily want to play guitar anymore that day, or just skip guitar that day, but I've still got a song in my mind. I found a mandolin to be a great substitute instrument for me on those days where I just want to play something else. It's not a guitar. And so not being a keyboard player or anything like that, again, getting to bring the skills I already have of picking and fretting and understanding chords on an instrument, get to bring that with me, and then pick up an instrument that is so in many ways different than guitar, and it's using similar parts but also at the same time very different parts of my brain. It's actually allowed me to always, between this, the B-bender, and the acoustics and everything else, it's allowing me to always have an instrument to go to when I feel like creating music. So I'm actually playing more music than I ever have by bringing the mandolin into the mix. Okay, number 7 can best be summed up with the word precision. In my mind, and from watching a lot of tutorials on mandolin on the internet, mandolin's very much about precision. I mean, you've got these very small frets, as I mentioned before, that take a little bit of getting used to as a guitar player. And it's also about, to make that note ring out, because you don't have much resonance compared to a guitar, you've really got to hit it correctly. There's not a lot of room for slop. And also your pitch and the note that you want to be on has to be what you want. Let's be honest, as guitar players, you can miss things and then bend into it. You know, you've got that option of bending. You don't really bend notes on a mandolin, so it's got to be very precise. So it's a different type of mindset, and it makes you realize as a long-term guitar player, a lot of what we do kind of are sloppy, we get away with kind of tricks with the bending and things of that nature. With the mandolin, very precise. And I found that as I work on my mandolin playing and struggle to have that precision, when I go back to guitar playing, my playing is much more crisp, much more precise. And yes, I still get all the benefits of guitar with the bending and all that good stuff, but it's much more precision, and it actually has benefited me as a guitar player, the precision required on the mandolin. So really enjoying that one. Okay, number 8's pretty darn obvious, but mandolin is kind of like instant bluegrass. I've had a blast taking a small multi-track recorder I have, laying down some acoustic guitar songs, just kind of basic chord structures and rhythms, and then coming back and doubling up some of those chords and some of the melody lines over it with the mandolin. And when you play it back, it's like you can play bluegrass right away. It's amazing. I never really played much bluegrass as a guitar player, so that opened up a lot of doors for me. Now I'm studying a lot of the great bluegrass players from the past. I'm, building up my library and learning a lot of that, enjoying it on the UFace internet. And so it's instant bluegrass. Also, it's fun to take even simple songs that you know on guitar, and when you play them on mandolin, they just sound completely different. It's the exact same song, but it sounds like bluegrass. And a good example is I'm shooting this in the month of February, so we just kind of came off of the holiday Christmas season, and I got to tell you, the mandolin was great for torturing my family with a bluegrass version of Jingle Bells. Followed my daughter around the house with that one all week until she begged me to stop. So again, taking songs you already know that are simple, they get a whole new life and they sound completely different when you take those chords you already know from the guitar straight over to the mandolin. Once you learn your chord structures, you get to take the songs you already know and play them on mandolin. You'll be surprised how many sound great on a mandolin and kind of get that bluegrass flavor by the nature of the instrument. So had a lot of fun with that one. Okay, number 9 is, it's not actually a fun one, but it happened to me. May not happen to all new mandolin players that are switching over from guitar, trying to bring it into the mix. But I got a real interesting case, and I'm still battling it all these months later, of a different type of carpal tunnel syndrome with my fret hand. There's something about, and I've watched a lot of videos, they talk about how to hold the mandolin, what's the proper positioning of that, and I've tried it all. I've tried varying my stance with the instrument and where my arms, shake hands with it, all that stuff, and had some success. But overall, if I play mandolin for too long, like 30, 45 minutes, I find that I get a whole different type of carpal tunnel issue, one that I have never had with guitar playing. So never had any problems. My calluses are well in place with guitar, so it's never been an issue with the fretting the strings and having any of the tips of my finger having any problems. That's taken care of with the guitar playing. But I have had an issue with carpal tunnel that I still occasionally have to deal with, that I've never had to deal with the guitar. Again, could be unique to me. Haven't read a lot about new players having this issue on the internet. But I wanted to throw it out there because it was something I wasn't expecting. And obviously it's something to do with how I'm holding the instrument and how I'm attacking it as a guitar player probably. I might have been better served had I never played guitar with this problem. I probably would have taken to the mandolin more naturally in terms of how I'm using my fret hand and maybe not have this issue. But wanted to throw it out there. I've had issues with carpal tunnel with the mandolin that I never had with guitar playing that I'm still working on. And I'm pretty sure I'll get over it. I'll find the right position and make it a habit. But for now, it's something I deal with. And finally, at number 10, it's a very obvious one and reminiscent of what I've said before, but at the end of the day, I'm really happy I went ahead and got a mandolin. I bought this one for $350 used on reverb.com. It's not a great mandolin. I forget the make. It's made in China. Didn't know if I was going to stick with it, so I didn't want to spend much money. Now I'm terrified to pick up an expensive, well-made mandolin because I'll probably want to buy it, because I definitely want to keep mandolin in my life, and I'll eventually get to that. But, you know, basically the bottom line is it was success for me, and number 10 is basically you make more music, and isn't that the whole point of it? You know, you have fun with it, you get to be creative, use that part of your brain we all love as guitar players. You get to bring that part with you over to the mandolin. You get that learning curve of the smaller frets. You don't freak out. You get your mind used to the smaller frets. You get used to the sustain not being there, the low notes not as much, and the different mentality of the single note and the melody driven type of playing. And then you miss it, because a lot of what you can do with the mandolin, being precise in that top end spectrum of the sound compared to that mid range of the guitar, there's actually times you think, wow, I think a mandolin would fit better there in that song, or you know, I feel like playing mandolin. So what you've done is you've increased your ability as a musician to do what we like to do, which is play music. So again, no regrets. Wish I'd done it sooner. And if you're a guitar player on the fence, you know, like I say, I got in this thing for under $400. It's not a big investment in the grand scheme of things, and I recommend you do it. I think if you've been playing guitar a while, you will definitely bring a lot of those skill sets with you and get to go fast on the instrument compared to maybe when you started on guitar. You didn't know anything and your fingers hurt and all that other stuff that beginning guitar players start with. Not as much on the mandolin. You know, it's definitely a learning curve. There's no doubt about it, but it's a fun learning curve because you are not starting from scratch as a guitar player. And also, like I say, adjust your mentality. Guitar players have a very set mentality. Mandolin's a different instrument and it requires a different mentality. And when you put the two together, I think you come out as a better player in the long run. So I hope you enjoyed this. You know, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll try and get to them. Let me know your, comment. What were your experiences if you tried as a guitar player to bring mandolin into your life? What did it do for you? What challenges did you have? I'd like to hear those in the comments. You know, it's a good discussion to have. So for now, that's it from the Bender Bunker. Next time you see me, I'll probably have a Telecaster strapped on. But appreciate you watching. And hey, like I say, if you're thinking about it, pull the trigger. Thanks for watching.